Hello, this is Jed Brewer with SG Voices. SG Voices is formerly known as the Below the Line Club, and we are your go-to resource for connecting with industry leaders, accessing trusted educational content, and discovering valuable insights. Our goal is ultimately to help you become better, more profitable businesses and drive business growth on your end. So, really excited to be able to talk about our topic today, which is elevating your C-store brand, and a couple ways that we're going to talk about it, because there's many ways to elevate your brand, but one is through superior design, and then another is through superior water quality. Have industry experts in both of those domains on the call. John McCauley with Paragon Solutions, he's the director of brand design, and also Austin Burns, who's the president and CEO of Paragon Solutions. So they're going to be talking more on the superior design side, so giving us details on what we can do to ultimately elevate our brand, so transforming casual visitors into repeat customers. How can we take the elements of our store, exterior signage, all the way to the checkout experience, and really deliver on that, and also just offering some practical design solutions that have boosted sales in firms that they've worked with over time up to 70%. After the first half hour, we'll turn over to Derek DeShaw. Derek is the president of Flurico Technologies. And Flurico is all about water. And water, at least to me, seems simple, but it can have a really big impact on your store. So he's going to talk about how to significantly extend equipment lifespans for ice machines, for coffee machines, for car equipment, why higher water quality means less maintenance, because when things are breaking down, it's bad for the customers, and ticketing and putting team members on it can be really hard internally. So how do we reduce all that repair and maintenance spend that we have? And there's some decently simple tricks that Derek is going to share with us a little bit about today. So I hope you really enjoy this. We want this webinar to be educational. If you have questions, I've got you muted, but please type in the GoToWebinar framework those questions. I can see them. I'll relay them to our respective presenters as we go. This will be a 60-minute use of your time, and hope it's really valuable for you. So with that background in mind, John, I'm going to turn it over to you at Paragon Solutions to talk with us a little bit about superior design within our stores.
Yeah, thank you, Jed. We're excited to be here, and hope you guys find this information useful and helpful. So how do you build loyalty through design? That's what we're going to dive into here. Customers become loyal to brands that consistently deliver more than is expected. Exceeding expectations is how you build loyalty. They return to brands that they can count on for reliable quality, honest communication, alignment with their values, that offer useful innovations and great customer service. Can't put enough emphasis on customer service and what a differentiator that can be. That customer experience that is reliably repeated, if the customer continues to receive that, they're going to become not just customers, but advocates for your brand, and ultimately tell others about you. So that's how loyalty happens, that's how advocacy happens, and that's how you build equity in a brand. So before we talk about your brand or branding, think about what brands that you're loyal to and why. Why are you loyal to them? What makes them stand out to you? Why do you keep going back to them? What is it about them that appeals to you and makes you a loyal brand follower? So is it the price? Is it quality, experience? Is it what the brand says about you? Sometimes that can be a factor in it. Is it something else? For my wife, Crumble Cookie, I mean, it's the only app she has on her phone that she goes to every week to see what the latest selection is. It's and she's excited. She buys one cookie, but it's a thrill for her. So that is brand loyalty. That is advocacy. She just is a big fan.
What's your favorite cookie, John? Is it chocolate chip or some icing?
She usually likes whatever's got the biggest Yeah, the biggest pile of icing on it. That's it. It's whatever the sweetest, the most chock full of whatever. That's what she's going for. Yeah,
Must be a Texan, make it bigger and it's better. Yeah.
that's it. So loyalty doesn't happen by accident. It needs to be strategic. It needs to be thought through. It needs to align with your operations, with everything else that you're doing. So as store owners and operators, what inspires loyalty with your customers? That's the question. Think about this. How can we get them in the boat? How can we get them on board with your brand? So when we begin a branding project with Paragon, we start with strategy. Strategy is first. Then we get into brand identity, things like names, logos, and then ultimately execution of that brand is the last phase. So a great strategy. This is what will map out how you're going to be different, how you're going to be trustworthy, how you're going to be memorable, and likable to your customers. It'll convey your purpose, your promises, and how you solve problems for people. So what's your strategy? And if you don't have one, how can you start developing it? Well, it starts with some questions, think of this. If your business was a person at a party, who would they be? The helpful expert, the innovative rebel, the trusted friend, the clown. Your strategy defines the personality and ensures everything from the store design to your staff training is reflected consistently. So there's that consistency is a real thing that you got to really focus on to create a brand that's memorable, that's recognizable. You have to be consistent once you define what that is. So with a clear strategy, without a clear strategy, you're just another store selling stuff. With one, you become a meaningful part of your customer's life. That's how you get that advocacy we talked about. So a solid brand strategy answers the questions of who you try to reach. And the more specific you are with this, the better, the more your return you're going to get on that investment. So really think about it. We get sometimes when we talk about, who's your target customer? Well, everyone. I want everyone. And I'm telling you that if that's your answer, you're probably not going to hit any of them. You got to really be strategic. What problem are you going to solve for them? What personality and values do you want to project? What feelings should people have after interacting with you? Feelings matter. How people react emotionally matters. So what makes you meaningfully different from your competition? This is really key. How are you going to be different?
I like that point about, John, you mentioned about feeling that maybe it's because I'm male. I don't know, but I've discounted that, I think, over time in my own life. But my experience has been, yeah, if people leave feeling really positive about something, they're going to be much more likely to re-engage.
100%. That's my wife, Incredible Cookie. She is excited and delighted when she walks out of there. It elevates her day. It elevates her week. It's a small thing, makes a big difference. So think about that one element. How do you bring that into your store? How can you bring something that's going to excite and delight your customers? And oftentimes it's something small, but it's meeting a need they have in some way. And it could be an emotional need. It doesn't have to be like something big. So thinking about that target customer, in convenience retail, there's typically two that we look at. There's what we call a typical customer. This is the low-hanging fruit, and the more discerning customer. So that typical customer is that blue-collar male. These guys frequent stores more than others, convenience stores, I should say. They'll go in almost any store, right? It doesn't have to be that appealing for them to get them in the door if it's convenient for them, right? So that's the thing they look for. They still want clean, they still want a nice store, they still want all the other things the others do, but this is the easier customer to get in the door. The one that we design for and the one that we try to woo is this more discerning customer. So this is going to be that female demographic. It's going to be soccer moms, even younger generations, the Gen Zs. They fall into this category. So safety is a must. Frictionless is really important to this customer. Fresh food offerings, clean restrooms, good sight lines, all of those things matter. So this again, this is my wife. To get her in the door, you got to up your game. You got to make it appealing. You got to do something better. So they're going to be the one that's going to be the more challenge for you to get through. So how does that happen? Well, you got to think about what differentiates you, what gives you the edge in the market over your competition. And this is, you're going to be doing things that your competition does. Say there's going to be some overlap in regards to those customers' needs. But what is that thing that you can do better or you can do different? And sometimes it's something as simple as better customer experience, better customer service. You're just more friendly. They like the guy behind the counter better. Those kind of things. So it could be even training your staff to make sure that they're aligned with what those core values are, what we're trying to be as a brand. But if you can deliver on multiple points, multiple touch points, that's what's going to give you the edge.
John, do you have an example of a firm who is in our industry, C-store, that is really differentiated well?
Oh yeah, there's many of our customers. I think about Rusty Lantern Market, who you're going to see in this deck up in Maine. They have done a great job of really standing out in their market, and that goes to that beyond expectation part that we talked about. They're better than they have to be in their market. Most of their stores are in Western Maine, and there's not a lot of competition really. But they have made sure that they position themselves in the market that they're the one to chase, right? And so, made to order food that's above what it has to be, barista coffee, seating areas. And you'll see later in the deck, but that's one that really comes to mind. It's not a mystery that they were store of the year this year. So it's really truly a brand that stands out in the market, which is a great segue into this slide, which is, what is the thing that's going to make you stand out? The purpose of brand identity, the purpose of brand strategy for that matter, is to help make you recognizable, how to make you stand out. So to be recognizable as a brand, you need to be clearly different from your competitors. This is table stakes in competing effectively in the marketplace. This is where you got to be to get started, right? You got to stand out. You got to do something unique. So we think about the brands, these brands, some of the more that we recognize. What is it about them that makes them stand out? I mentioned Crumble Cookie, but you think about some of these are just truly own the space. Sometimes there's just not any competition even close to them. Or ones that have really carved out a unique niche in the convenience travel center sector, like Buc-ee's, where they're destinations, where the brand is popular, people like it, people want the merch, people want to have that association with the brand. It's really amazing how those things create a following. But what is it? What's the secret sauce to making it happen, and how can you get some of that in your mix? One thing I can say is that you can't follow the leader and be remarkable. You got to carve out your own space. You got to blaze your own trail. You got to make this happen yourself. So it's got to be unique. It's got to be different. It's got to be something that that you can defend and own, and that's yours. Seth Godin, the Purple Cow guy, he's also a great person to follow on branding, all things about that on social media. But written a lot of books. This quote: "The traditional approaches are obsolete. Alternative approaches aren't novel. They're all we got left." So you got to think differently. You got to stand out. You got to think outside the box. You must be unique to have a chance to be noticed anymore. So, great example of a Purple Cow is Liquid Death. I know we all know about Liquid Death. Been a big disruptor in the beverage industry with their skull graphic and the Murder Your Thirst slogan. Last I saw, they had reached 1.4 billion in valuation. So it's working, right? What they did worked. So to stand out from the typical bottled water brands out there, they did something completely different. They demonstrated how bold differentiation creates value in a crowded market. So this truly follows that purple cow principle. You succeed by deliberately being different, maintaining, in this case, a clear eco-friendly stance, focusing sharply on who their target customer is, because this brand doesn't appeal to everyone, right? This is really selective about who this is going to appeal to, but it appeals greatly to the target that they chose for this. So they're not trying to please everyone. They have their target, they have their customers, and it's working for them. So the lesson is clear. Remarkable brands get noticed while conventional approaches lead to invisibility. So think about this. So you don't necessarily have to be as edgy as Liquid Death, but I'll say this, that, and just like Seth Godin said, the most dangerous thing you can do is be safe. So think how you can push the limit a little bit. So let's talk about brand identity. This is name and logo. What's the main purpose of brand identity? Well, based on everything we just talked about regarding strategy and establishing brand distinction, it's obvious. The answer is to make you stand out, to make you noticed. So that's what the name logo is about. So if you sound like every other quickie mart out there, you're going to blend right in. No one's going to pay any attention to you. So a distinctive name, logo, something that's not copying anyone, that doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be as edgy as Liquid Death again, but it needs to be something unique, something different, something with a story. And we always try to talk about, hey, what's the story behind the brand? Is there a message? Is there a story? Is there something that we can communicate with that? This is just a sampling of we've created hundreds of brand identities, logos, and each one was a unique solution for a particular client and what their value proposition was, what their positioning in the market is. Everything comes into play in this: style, personality, tone of voice, who that target customer is. All those things have to be weighed in, and that's that strategy component that dictates what that brand identity should be and how that's going to be appealing, how that's going to resonate with that target customer, and also help them get noticed, help them stand out. It all starts with naming. This can be one of the biggest hurdles to get over in brand development. It should be aligned with that strategy, as we talked about. But where do names come from? In this case, you see all these names. These all came from different inspiration. At one point, these were all just a name no one knew anything about, but ultimately people built a brand around that name, and people learned to associate that experience with the brand. So, we get into this. The main things we think about are uniqueness. Hey, can you trademark it? Can you own it? Is it unique enough that if you want to, that you can protect it? Sometimes it's taking an existing name and evolving it. We did this with End Market. It used to be Endmark. We evolved it to End Market, changed it to a more food-centric brand, and that was very successful for them. So it's a lot of things to consider with naming, but that's the first thing to come up with. The next thing is to develop the logo or the brand, the brand identity visually. So this again, brand strategy. Thinking about all those things, defining the focus, style, personality. It should be a visual expression of the brand. It's the face of the brand. It's the first thing that people notice oftentimes. So make it a good impression. This is something that really can communicate something distinctive. It doesn't always have to describe, as obviously as Freshies does here, but it does need to help you to be identified and stand out. So that's what we really focus on. So maybe you already have a brand. Maybe you have something that you're already working with or you've had for years. Maybe it's time for an assessment. Is that brand distinctive? Is it memorable? What does it differentiate you from your competition? Is it aligned with your strategy if you have a strategy? Does it resonate with your customers you're trying to go after? Is it authentic and recognizable? Authenticity, especially with the younger generations, is such an important brand attribute, that there's a story, that there's some meaning, that it stands for something. Then the most important thing I can say is consistency again across all the touch points. So you may have a brand, but it's not evident anywhere else in your store or in that customer journey. This is such an important thing. In
John, I got
fact,
a couple of questions on
yeah,
this, and you're going to touch on it, but
go ahead.
consistency. So you talk a lot about that, and it makes sense. You go to Starbucks, right? You got consistent image. And think about our industry, particularly through M&A, where our growth may have come from. We've acquired this site. All the boxes are of different size than each other. How do we really deliver that consistent brand experience in our industry?
Yeah, great question. So where that comes from is having really well-developed brand standards. And this is something that we do with clients. We have a lot of clients who have grown through acquisition. Just like you said, there's, they have varying sites, different footprints, different even, ceiling heights and elevations. So how do you do that? Well, it's through having a really well dialed in brand standards guide playbook where you're thinking through from a design perspective, you're anticipating and you're thinking through all those scenarios and how you can adapt, scale without compromising the core elements of the brand, things that are recognizable. So those are typically, colors, finishes, maybe certain design elements that come into play that really help to make it distinctive, and those core things or core tenets of the brand, things that are that you try very hard not to compromise on. So that's what we do. We really do it. The better that's developed on the front end, the standards for not just branding, not just logos, but the whole design, everything, finishes, even lighting come into play, all those kind of things, signage. So what can we do to make sure that those are consistently delivered at every touch point?
And the other thing that I'd add to that is we are in a huge world of M&A right now, and that, to your question, that is a big topic that everyone is faced with. I think the key there is to know how your brand will travel, so to speak. And if there is an acquisition, what impact are you having to that brand? And what is that brand's brand equity within that market? What's the time frame for that change? What makes the most sense? There gets to be a lot of brand ego in some of these things as well, to where we force a brand on a market or on a region. If brands are done well, they are more valuable than the land they sit on sometimes. And we have to value that and understand how our brands are going to be converted into those spaces. And going back to the differentiators, with each brand, there should be the non-negotiables. When there's an acquisition, what is that aspect of my brand that every time, it doesn't matter what type of store they're going in, old or new, the customer can understand, I can expect to see this every time they see my name. And that's a really hard thing to accomplish with the M&A side of things. So just thought I'd add that there's a lot of moving parts and it's hard, but you got to have a plan for that.
Yeah, that's where standards really make all the difference. If you don't have them, you're not going to be successful with it. That's just the bottom line.
Understanding those brand standards, understanding those non-negotiables that you can apply consistently across your various sites. Another thing I heard you talk about was storytelling. And we're in the convenience industry. We have short interactions with our customers. Some people are just driving by the street. How do we tell that story quickly and concisely? Do you have any examples of that, or can you elaborate on that point? Because people remember stories much more than facts.
I do. I have, in fact, a little later in this deck I do, and that is around some work we did with Rusty Lantern Market on their coffee program. So they were doing a premium coffee. They have a barista program in the store. Again, something you wouldn't expect, but excites and delights the customers. And not only is it a barista, but they're using a local roaster, Coffee by Design, out of Portland, which is a premium brand that's recognizable in their market, and they're promoting that. So that story about not only is this a premium coffee, but it is responsibly sourced, it's single sourced, all those buzzwords that mean something to someone who that matters to, right? So that's a story that we put a little statement in. It's communicated statically in the space. It's also communicated digitally in the interaction with their bean to cup machines. So in addition to the barista, they have that story is being told. It's on their website. So every touch point that you can, it can be also communicated out at the forecourt if you have that opportunity. Wherever that customer is pausing for a moment, that's where you have an opportunity to get that message out there. But it's got to be done in a way that is easily absorbed, easily understood. You know, obviously you can't write a book and expect them to get it. So it's got to be very strategic and very concise. Good question.
Thanks, John, for pausing to elaborate on that.
Yeah, no worries. Ultimately, I mean, this 23% is you know, I think it's huge, right? This is higher margins, increased sales, repeat customers, loyalty. It's a great value. So that's just from consistency, just making sure people know who you are. We think about this too, and when we design stores, we think of them as brand-led design. So this is truly a three-dimensional expression of your brand identity. Every element from site plan, layout, interior finishes, signage, systems, merchandisers, all communicate something about that brand story and the value. So there's a lot of subtle things or subconscious things that go on in the space that are also telling your customer something. Things that they may not even be conscious, they're just that the store is clean, and maybe they're not even noticing it because it's not dirty, right? they would if it's dirty. But those are things that happen subconsciously through that customer journey that we you know, that help elevate the brand, help build brand loyalty. So there's not always something they're thinking about, but if it was missing or if it wasn't there, if it was, again, if it was subpar, they're gonna hone in on that and notice it. So we think about that when we design every aspect of it, and I just hit the wrong button. Sorry, guys.
It's a very good way to get us to review your presentation. So
I was about to say, this is the
Yeah.
review. You're welcome. So yeah, so let's think about touch points. Let's think about the places where brand messaging lives or brand identity lives. So your main ID sign. This is your 24/7 brand ambassador. It could be the first impression your customers have of your brand. You know, make it a good one. It needs to be bright, modern, well maintained. And even if you have a brand, you know, a national brand, a fuel brand out there, and you're just only you know, part of the sign, still, whatever parts you own, make it the best it could be, and then make sure the rest of the sign is well maintained, that, you know, it's not damaged, that there's you know, things missing. So that good, you know, entry level, first impression. But if you do have an opportunity to fully brand this sign, you know, make it part of the design, make it something unique, make it something that stands out. So this is really one of those touch points that I think oftentimes gets overlooked, but it is oftentimes that first impression. Then we think about, you know, site design. This is such a critical part. Often, again, one of the first impressions that you have. Optimizing this creates a seamless customer journey through strategically placed entrances and exits. Ensures smooth traffic flow with you know, properly designed curb cuts, deceleration lanes, clear directional signage if you need it. That can really be a difference in that experience for that customer. Think about the space that you give vehicles. You know, especially people that drive big trucks. You know, a wider space, parking space can make all the difference in that being a positive experience. I was talking to Austin earlier about this, and he drives a big truck, and then he has a Suburban, and he said, you know, that for him is a decision maker in whether he goes to a particular store or not, because he knows he can get his truck in there and park it comfortably and not.
I am loyal to site design. I'm loyal to getting into a store. I will not go to stores that tons of people are crammed in there, and I'll just go to the next one because I'm not dealing with all that. That's a real thing.
Absolutely is. So that makes a difference for you.
Savannah, and it's really great. Even like from above, this is and obviously that's their warehouse and everything back there, but this is a great location.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say thank you. Yeah, so spacious, congestion-free fueling areas is another thing. You see the truck with the trailer there, that guy being able to navigate that space without feeling like he's going to hit something. These things make a big difference. Thinking about weather protection elements, like in this case, just having that awning around the front of the building, and what a difference that makes for someone who's coming into the store, and having that nice covering from from rain or whatever may be the weather situation. So all those things add up to a better customer experience and loyalty. Why do you make a decision to go to this store rather than the one across the street? Well, it's a better experience, and sometimes you can't always put your finger on it, but you know that you like it. So thinking about that store design, the actual building, does it have curb appeal? Is it evident and that your primary building signage, your brand's out there? Is it in a prominent place? Is it visible? In this case with Leo's, Market Eatery, it's evident, but that brand is right front and center. It's got its own space in the design. This was my design. So think about the architectural design. Does this, what does it say about your brand? Is it modern? Is it contemporary? Is it rustic? Is it outdoorsy? Upscale? What are you trying to communicate with it? And all those things come into the design. Does the customer look comfortable? Is it something that they're going to feel invited into? Would my wife or my daughter go into this store? Those are things that you might ask yourself. And then, I can't overemphasize how quality on the outside equals quality on the inside. That impression they have of the outside of your store is going to inform them what they might expect on the inside. So always be thinking about that. Is this outside a good representation of what I have on the inside? So you may have some really great offerings on the inside, but maybe the outside isn't communicating that very well. So be thinking about that. Then let's look at the forecourt experience, the fueling. Now, in this case, if you're unbranded on the fuel, you have more opportunities sometimes, or options to really make that a branded moment. But what are you promoting out there? What are your customers seeing when they're fueling? Are you giving them a reason to go in the store? We talk about forecourt conversions all the time, and how can we do it? Well, it goes through really good messaging, real good marketing. What brand message is happening at the fueling station? Is it effective, compelling? What are you promoting? Good food photography and good food videography is a must. People eat with their eyes first. So promoting limited time offers, signature products, how are these being showcased? Exterior messaging signs and digital screens at the pump can help drive in-store sales. This is, let me see if I can get this play. This is Neon out of Rhode Island, and just sitting at the pump here, this is what you're seeing while you're fueling up. So again, reason to go in the store, reason to think about it. People eat with their eyes first. It's lunchtime. That sandwich looks good. I'm going to go in there. So 40%, that's the amount of digital media at the dispensers has proven to improve in-store sales. That's huge. That's a huge number. So even if you don't have opportunities with the video, and even if maybe you have you're with a national brand, what can you do? What can you do to promote your food? So in this case, this is Rebel, one of our customers, and really optimizing that space to promote their brand and their food offering on the inside. I mean, that's how you do it. Good, simple food imagery, something that's gonna catch the eye and give them a reason to think about you. Rusty Lantern Market, who I've mentioned a couple times, they're at Irving stations primarily, and you can see good food photography, good marketing, and finding places to do that on the columns or on the side of the dispensers. So there's always ways to do it, but thinking creatively, think what you can do, and make sure you're optimizing and maximizing that. And then what are the customers seeing when they're done fueling and maybe they're heading into the store? Is the offering being promoted effectively? Is it being communicated? Quick Trip does a great job with this. They're good at promoting their food out at the pump, as well as oftentimes on the building. Sorry about that. So this is a critical point in the customer journey. This is, really making decisions. So interesting thing about this type of marketing, this type of messaging is 95% of all C-store purchasing decisions are made subconsciously. So planting seeds, again, they're not always thinking about it, but when they get in the store, they've made a decision about buying something. They've made a decision because it's been communicated well to them. And a picture is 60,000 times more effective than a word. So a good image says everything. You don't have to put a lot of verbiage around it. You don't have to put a lot of explanation if it's done well and done right.
So John, as we wrap up here, because I know we need to move on to Derek.
Yeah.
One of the key trade-offs I feel that we as convenience store operators face is scarcity of resources, right? Like I can go out and I can build the Taj Mahal, but can I get it to return my investment at the end of the day? So if you were to summarize, kind of everything that you're talking about, what's that low-hanging fruit that somebody can really focus on to create that quality experience that's really going to drive that inside sales for folks?
Yeah, good question. Well, obviously, it's got to make sense in terms of ROI. So it has to align with, going back to strategy. Strategy is not, pie in the sky, something that that's not doable or not pragmatic, right? You got to make sure that it's something that you can do. So it's got to align with your facility, your capabilities, your operations, your budget, your market. Not every store, you can't always build a Oak Grove market on every site and it work. You got to know who that target customer is. You got to know what their needs are, what they want. I was talking to a customer yesterday, and he had put in a food program with some really high-end products and locally sourced stuff, but it was in the wrong neighborhood. It was a neighborhood that the demographic wouldn't support it. They didn't care. Those things didn't matter to them. So it's to answer your question, it's a customized solution. It's a customized approach based on a particular brand, a particular location, operations. All those things come into play, and that's the strategy. The strategy doesn't always have to be, a market feel like this. It could be a standard convenience store, but what can you do? What can you do to give yourself an edge in the market and understand who you are and what makes sense for you?
Good thoughts, John.
Yeah.
Austin, any final thoughts you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I want to answer, I feel like I want to answer your question a little bit more specifically for your audience. And I think that what you're saying too is, hey, this looks great, guys, but man, times are tough and I can't afford a lot of this right now. So what could I do right now to my existing stores? One is, restrooms. Update your restrooms. Restrooms are a profit center. Look at your fountain, your coffee program. These are all profit centers. Clean them up. It's amazing what a coat of paint can do for your store. Look at updating cooler doors. Look at updating, your coolers or your gondolas. Lighting is a huge thing too. We need to see what we're purchasing. We need to be captivated. So you need to have intentional lighting. It's amazing what redoing your floors can do. That's hard. So it doesn't always require an NTI, a new build, a prototype, or anything to do what John's talking about. It's really understanding who you are as a brand. If customer service is your differentiator, then let's hone to that. How do we enhance that? Is that looking over and redoing your checkout? Is that giving more visibility to different items and areas of the store? So I just want to tell you, there's quick action steps and things that you can do now to your existing stores. So you actually maybe even try some things out before you go to the new build. But to John's point, understanding that strategy, understanding who you are as a brand and what your brand promise and those differentiators are incredibly important. So thanks for letting us.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you, Austin.
Thanks, Jed.
Yeah, we're going to turn our attention now to Derek Deshaw at Flurico, and he's going to talk to us about water. And I'm a simple guy, and you think, oh, water is the most abundant source, resource that we have out there. We all drink it. it's a part of our human lives. But Derek's got a really fascinating solution that I think one I didn't know about, but can really be a difference maker within your store. So Derek, I'm going to allow you to share, your solution and how you solve some of this hard water problem and the benefits it has for C-store operators. Although Derek, I think we got you on mute.
You warned me that would happen, so there you go.
Yeah, now you're good. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Jed. And John and Austin, thanks. That was really helpful. Even for me, I don't own a C-store, but from a branding perspective, that was really valuable information. My name is Derek. I'm the president of Flurco. We're the distributor for HydroFlow in the convenience store and car wash industry. HydroFlow is the world's leading chemical-free water treatment against limescale and bacteria. Today, we're going to talk about hard water and bacteria, why your ice maker keeps breaking, and how to keep it from costing you thousands. We're going to talk a lot more than just about ice makers. There are hidden costs associated with hard water and biofouling in many different areas around your site, your convenience store and car wash. 3 questions I'm going to work to answer today are: what effect does hard water have on your convenience store, and how is it costing you money? What options are there to combat hard water and other water quality issues in your store? And how Flurco's HydroFlow works, and what you could expect from an installation of HydroFlow. The challenges that you may be experiencing without knowing it caused by limescale buildup in your store are limescale buildup in your water heaters, ice machines, food warmers, and coffee makers, decreased equipment lifespan and increased maintenance, reduced efficiency and increased energy bills, as well as increased labor costs from cleaning limescale with acids and other chemicals. I thought it'd be valuable to include this water hardness map across the United States. Typically, anything under about 60 ppm is considered soft water. Anything above that has a propensity to create limescale in equipment, on faucets, those types of things. But just because a specific store or area doesn't have really hard water doesn't mean that they may not be dealing with limescale or biofoul. I'm going to take just a minute to elaborate on that. Limescale isn't just based on hard water. It also has to do with temperature difference and pressure differences. Groundwater temperature in certain areas can have a big effect on whether limescale buildup is going to have an effect in your store. Some areas of the North, Pacific Northwest, and Midwest have colder groundwater temperatures, which creates a larger temperature delta between the groundwater and the heated water as it goes into or through coffee machines, instant water heaters, and even tank water heaters. Especially tankless water heaters, they have a much more rapid temperature delta than tank water heaters, which means they're extra susceptible to limescale buildup. Pressure deltas can also create limescale in a very specific area. Car washes and car wash nozzles are a place where pressure delta goes from low pressure to very high pressure as it's coming out of a nozzle. And the same is for evaporators and evaporator coils in ice makers. The next thing we're going to do is walk through just a few examples of where limescale buildup was costing convenience stores a lot of money and how the correct solution helped them save time, money, and equipment. A convenience store chain, End Market actually in this case, was replacing Hoshizaki ice makers between once a quarter and once every 6 months. They were replacing their evaporators and evaporator coils, costing them about $5,000 to $7,000 each time. In one store we installed in August 2023, they replaced their evaporator about 2 weeks before we installed a HydroFlow HS40 and 2 HydroFlow Pro Pluses. We'll explain how and why we install equipment where it gets installed a little later, but over the next year and a half, even to this date, they haven't had any issues with limescale buildup in that store or in that evaporator, saving them over $20,000 over the last about year and a half. Here are some images of that ice maker evaporator. The image on the right is very recent.
On devices, hoses, all that kind of stuff from the hardness, and it's,
Yeah,
I'm a dirty finance guy. I don't really think about it till I see these pictures. It's kind of like shocking.
absolutely. And for a finance guy, oftentimes the numbers that stick out on the page are the big ones, like dispensers, point of sale issues, those types of things, where the smaller numbers, $1,500 here, $3,000 or $4,000 there, even just a $500 call out, those can add up a lot to the bottom line of the store. Actually, this is a perfect example of that. These food warmers are pretty regular in the back house of a lot of stores. You fill these food warmers with water from the faucets that sometimes can have really hard water. Then these heating plates get really, really hot and heat up the water, obviously. The limescale sticks to those heating plates, like creates a chemical bond to those heating plates. The only way to get it off is by cleaning it with acids and vinegars and those types of things. Acid cleaning damages the seals and voids the warranty on these. And with HydroFlow, the limescale is softened and begins to come off. Daily maintenance is easier, and equipment replacement and repairs are at an all-time low at this store specifically. Here's a faucet. We've all seen this type of a picture before. The reason I'm showing you this image is because it's important to note, if you can see limescale on your faucets and in your sinks, there's a high likelihood that you're experiencing the hidden costs of equipment maintenance and lifespan reduction due to limescale buildup inside the equipment where you can't see it, like the evaporator that I showed you earlier. It's a big deal. Again, if you go look at your faucets around your convenience store, if you can see limescale buildup on your faucets, there's a high likelihood that you're experiencing the increased costs that you're currently unaware of from equipment maintenance and lifespan reduction due to the limescale buildup where you can't see it. Ice makers, coffee machines, bean to cup, for real machines, and even dishwashers are areas where limescale can really be costing you a lot of money and you may not be aware of it. All right, for the next few minutes, I'm going to go over the typical water treatment options in convenience stores and car washes. This isn't intended to be a comprehensive list of what's available, but typically what we see in the stores that we're installed in. Sediment and carbon filtration like these are becoming a standard piece of installation, seemingly no matter what other type of option is used. We always recommend them, and we rarely see a site that doesn't already have filters in this realm of the space. Sediment filters remove visible particles like rust, sand, silt, and they improve water clarity. And then activated carbon filters remove contaminants, chemical contaminants, and impurities. They're really good at reducing chlorine, and that affects water flavor really well. Typically, local water quality data for what's in your store's area can be found online. That helps us choose what best micron level and type of carbon filter is going to be best in your local area. I can help filter through that information and make those choices with you also. Reverse osmosis for convenience stores and car washes use a semi-permeable membrane that pushes water with high pressure through the membrane, purifies 99% of dissolved solids, heavy metals, and nitrates. These are great for poor water quality areas. Sometimes car washes use recycled water and need to make sure that as they're reusing the water, it's retreated fully before reusing it in their car wash. The drawbacks of RO systems are typically really high cost expensive and extensive installation, plumbing requirements. They're really energy intensive. They have a large footprint, which I imagine John and Austin deal with equipment and the footprint associated with that equipment and wanting to keep that at a minimum. Significant wastewater, about per gallon of RO water that is produced, 4 to 5 gallons, sometimes even more, is wasted. And maintenance and membrane replacements can be really expensive. We recently installed in a car wash that was using reverse osmosis. Reverse osmosis membranes struggle from 2 things that we can help with: limescale buildup on the front side where the pressure differential is the largest, and biofouling and bacteria on the back end where stagnant water can sometimes linger. Sorry, go ahead, Jed.
Oh, it's all right, yeah.
So we're currently installed in a car wash that was having a really difficult time maintaining their membranes for more than even 1 month. So they were replacing their membranes on a monthly basis because of those 2 issues, limescale and biofouling. Since we installed in December, they haven't had to replace their membranes 1 time. They'll replace them by the end of this month as a part of their regular maintenance. But that means that we've taken their membrane replacements from 10 to 12 times a year down to a standard 3 to 4 times a year, which is going to save them thousands and thousands of dollars just in their membrane replacement each year ongoing.
So what should I be looking for a C-store owner for that system that is going to best meet their needs?
Oftentimes it's local water quality data, things like local water hardness, whether that's in grains or ppm, whether the convenience store is hooked up to a well or city water. Sometimes that can make a difference. The well water may not be what the local city water hardness says that it is. Sometimes it can be significantly harder than what the area's average water hardness is. And then uses. So a lot of times inside the store, the uses are mostly ice machines, coffee machines, bean to cups, for real machines, dishwashers, those types of things. In car washes, it's a much higher volume of water being treated. We see a lot of reverse osmosis systems in car washes.
Mm-hmm.
And then in a car wash, if it's a recycled water car wash where they have a tank where they hold water and then reuse that water, that can sometimes create real big issues with biofouling and bacteria buildup, which can make, have you ever driven through a car wash that smelled bad as you were going through the car wash? That's because there's bacteria growing from their reused, recirculating water.
Get back to that experience of feelings that John was talking
Absolutely.
about. Going through a bad smelling car wash, you don't leave with that same attachment.
For sure. And then like experience as well, if the ice maker is out of order or there's an out of order sign on a bean to cup or for real machine or something like that you were planning on using, that certainly isn't good for the customer experience.
Yeah, 100%.
The last
those negative experiences add up. Yeah, it only takes a few before they don't come back, right?
For sure. The last one we'll go over before going more into HydroFlow specifically is traditional water softeners. These work through ion replacement, so they pull the calcium and magnesium ions out of the water and replace them with sodium ions. They are good at preventing scale buildup if they're installed in like a brand new store. They don't eliminate existing scale buildup like HydroFlow does. Typically, they can be kind of expensive. They also have a large footprint. They don't do anything for microbial or bacteria mitigation. Also, they increase sodium levels. So this is an interesting thing that I've been learning more and more about. Per grain of water hardness that a water softener removes, about 8 milligrams of sodium is added per liter of water. This can be an issue with somebody with high blood pressure or on low sodium diets that think that they're just drinking water, but if it's softened water, it can actually be increasing the amount of sodium intake that their body's getting. Regular salt tablet replacement. I put hopefully here. You can see in the middle picture, that's what the salt brine tank looks like. The amount of times I've seen those empty in convenience stores is under. I've seen beer cans inside an empty salt tank that's supposed to be being utilized to soften the water in a store. Softened water is corrosive, and also the discharge of the softened water to the local wastewater treatment plant can be a really bad thing. In California, there's a lot of municipalities where traditional saltwater softeners are actually banned. They're outlawed because of the wastewater treatment plant effects of if there's a lot of saltwater softeners in an area. All right, we'll move on more specifically to HydroFlow, how we work with some of those other pieces of equipment, and what our installation typically looks like. This is the equipment that you'll normally see us install. The HydroFlow HS40 is typically installed at the water inlet or where the water filtration, the sediment and carbon filter are located. And then HydroFlow Pearl Pluses and HydroFlow Pearls are oftentimes installed more closely to pieces of equipment that may be far away from that location. They're kind of like Wi-Fi boosters, and that'll make a little bit more sense as we move on with the presentation. And then the industrial units, these are almost always where we see in car washes, long tunnels, where pumps and nozzles and a lot of water flow is happening. We use the HydroFlow industrial units pretty regularly. These are used oftentimes on cooling towers, boilers, chillers, those types of areas where water hardness and equipment efficiency is a really big deal. The benefits of HydroFlow are that from day one, we eliminate new limescale buildup. And over the first 60 to 90 days of installation, existing limescale will begin to soften and break apart and come off of equipment, helping it run more efficiently and maintain cleanliness longer. We kill bacteria and remove biofouling. It's really easy to install. Anybody, even the least handy person, but especially technicians that may work for a convenience store chain, can learn how to install these and do it well. You don't need my help to install them long term. It enhances water quality without altering its composition, leaving the good minerals in the water. So a water softener removes calcium and magnesium ions and replaces it with sodium ions. We leave the calcium and magnesium in the water. We just physically remove its ability to create scale. We'll explain how that works in the next slide.
So real quick, Derek, does this little device work in tandem with those other devices that you were talking about, or is it a replacement?
Yes, so that's actually have the note here, like the one drawback that we typically see of our systems is that they are not in and of themselves a filter. So the limescale that we remove from the existing piping and the calcium and magnesium ions that create a stable crystal in the piping does typically get caught in sediment and carbon filters and or in RO systems. But these are not a filter in and of themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'd have the filter and then they could put this on there to get the additional benefits. Yeah.
Right, so these will increase filter efficiency and efficiency in RO systems. It's kind of like a coagulant, I guess, for lack of a better word, where our signal creates the need for particles to attach to each other. We turn TDS, which is total dissolved solids, into TSS, which is total suspended solids. Suspended solids can be filtered out where dissolved solids can't. And so it really does help where filtration exists. If filtration doesn't exist, we always suggest it. One of the benefits is that there's no ongoing maintenance fees to our equipment. So although we're not filters and you will still need to replace your filter elements, our equipment is a single install and a set it and forget it. It comes with a 5-year warranty, but the lifespan is 10 to 15 years beyond that.
Got it, makes sense. And if
For
you
sure.
could do a quick quick wrap up here with, one of these videos.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if we're going to do a quick wrap up with one of the videos that we have, I'm going to briefly explain. This is the signal that our system uses. This signal agitates the ions, the positive and negatively charged ions, and creates a stable crystal through the system so that those ions attach to themselves instead of attaching to pieces of equipment. And then I'll play this video. This video explains what a typical installation in a convenience store looks like. Welcome to Flurco, where we're dedicated to enhancing the performance and reliability of your convenience store's equipment. We understand the importance of maintaining efficient operations in your convenience store. We install our advanced water treatment systems to ensure your equipment runs smoothly and remains in top condition. Our HS40 is installed on the main water line, providing comprehensive protection against limescale, bacteria, and biofouling. Pro Plus units are installed in strategic locations around the store. Think of them like Wi-Fi boosters, eliminating limescale, bacteria, and biofouling in key equipment like ice makers, coffee machines, or for-real machines. Extend equipment lifespan, reduce downtime, and lower operational costs. Flurco, your partner in excellence, reliability, and efficiency. All right, I'll leave just this last testimonial up here. This is from End Market. They've been a really valuable customer for us. And then if you have any more questions about how the equipment works, we weren't able to show one of those videos. I'd be happy to answer those questions, or even at a later time, reach out to me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Derek. And what a thing I love about study groups is sometimes what seem like little small things are nuggets of gold, right? And you mentioned the end market thing of, man, I can put this little device on my pipes and get a much better water experience than I'm able to get with all the traditional systems that are out there. So yeah, appreciate you helping educate us on that. Derek's contact information is here. We'll also send out Austin and John's contact information after this call. So if you have questions about anything that was presented on, we want to make sure those questions get answered for you. Just really grateful for the three of you guys for taking your time to help us all be better operators in our stores today. So just quick reminder, when you close out, there'll be a quick 2-question survey. We value your feedback. Please relay that to us so we can make these webinars the best for you going forward. Also check out our SG Voices website for more valuable content that we have on there, including educational articles, other webinars that we've done, and industry specific resources that are there. We look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. It'll be May 15th. So put that on your calendar, May 15th. And thank you again for being part of SG Voices. Hope you have a really good day. Take care.